What's going on, guys? You're very welcome to Road Rogues Volume 11 here on Degenerate Watch. Thank you very much for joining me. In this episode of Road Rogues, we're going to have our usual mix of madness on the roads, but we're also going to be taking a look at some off-roading and motorsporting mishaps. And if you haven't already checked out Road Rogues 10, which was our last Road Rogues episode here on the channel, I'll leave a link to that down below in the description, and I'll also leave a link down there to the complete Road Rogues playlist. And just before we do hop into the video, I want to give a massive shout out to the crew of legends that are my channel members. Thank you very much, guys, for your continued support and encouragement. It's very much thoroughly appreciated. Now, with all that being said, let's hop right into the video. Some crazy clips there, guys, and that guy who was getting airtime in the Peugeot is going to have quite a mess to fix up for himself after that escapade. And you can't blame the cameraman for laughing like a hyena there, because it was a pretty stupid thing to do. So as I said, this video is going to have a bit of an off-road slash motorsporting theme to it. But I also have a couple of other clips to show you guys, which I'm going to go through at the end. But first, let's take a look at some gentlemen trying to get a vehicle up a slippery slope right beside a massive ravine. What could possibly go wrong? Let's take a look.
Пиздец рисковый, ребята. Ой, ёбаный в рот, да ну нахуй. Пиздец.
Kind of upset at seeing that, guys, because that was a nice little off-road vehicle. But I have to say the driver is very lucky. He managed to jump out just at the right time there before it completely went downhill. Couldn't really resist throwing in an old pun there. You guys are actually pretty lucky I didn't hit you with a couple of the others I had in the bag, such as talk about him slipping up and getting a frosty reception from his insurer. Yeah, sometimes off-roading can really be a slippery slope to the bottom. My apologies, guys, for getting carried away there. I've been told not to do that anymore. So with that being said, we'll move right along into some more clips. If it wasn't for the audio on this clip, it'd pass for a road somewhere here in Ireland. But by the sounds of things, it seems like this guy here has lost half of his undercarriage. Having four-wheel drive is essential for off-roading, but sometimes one of the wheels will decide that they don't want to be part of this anymore. And by the sounds of the spectators, it's exactly what they want to see.
Oh yeah! Awesome!
Another wheel departure, but this time on a Ford pickup. And once again, another crowd pleaser.
Come forward.
What?
Nice and slow. No, driver. A little bit more driver. Okay, slow.
How is he gonna get down that, dude?
Forward a little bit more.
Whoa!
Now, passenger.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
This was definitely doomed to fail from the beginning. I'm not an expert here or anything, but I'd be trying to drive that Jeep down where that guy's giving directions from. It may be a little narrow, but it looks like there'd be more support for the wheels. Especially on the left-hand side. The left-hand tyre here is just going to drop down into empty space. No matter how slow you crawl up to the edge here, it's just going to drop when it gets to that empty space, resulting in the vehicle toppling over. And the guy there in the blue t-shirt and the baseball cap has put himself in a really bad position. And an even worse blunder that he made was actually approaching the vehicle as it was toppling in a bid to stop it from falling over. This could have turned out a whole lot worse for that guy. You really need to have your wits about you when you're doing something like this, especially if you're a good bit away from help. Our friend here is trying to remove his motorcycle from the water without getting his feet wet. On the other side, his friend, a real man, doesn't care about getting his feet wet and has just stood in the water. It seems his friend is a wise man because you guys all know what's going to happen here.
What do you think of it?
It's bloody disgrace.
And here we have another two challengers for the precarious incline championships, and as always the spectators reveling in a bit of carnage. Now this guy manages to nicely manoeuvre his way out of the situation. But I'm afraid the same can't be said for the second, smaller vehicle. I think the fact that this one isn't as heavy as the other one was the big disadvantage here. Looks like the trotters have taken to a bit of off-roading. Either that or they're running from the police.
What a plonker.
We love when people record their own stupidity, but when they capture it from multiple angles, it's even more entertaining. Very, very dangerous, and that guy is lucky that that truck didn't roll over on top of him, as we see here from this drone shot. Don't try this at home, kids. Just another day, another incline, and another 4x4 turned into a totem pole. This is like the reverse of the situation we just seen earlier on, minus the guy in the baseball cap with a death wish. And like the other situation, to me, this doesn't look doable either. And like I said earlier, not an expert. A wise move from the passenger here as he decides to exit.
A failure. Yeah. Hell with this.
Safest place is in the Jeep.
What's that?
Safest place is in the Jeep. Maybe not.
Safest place there was definitely not in the Jeep. And of course the cameraman was saying that because, as we all know, the cameraman never dies. We're going to move on now into a couple of motorsport clips. And we're going to start off with this clip, which you will have seen in Road Rogues Volume 10 as a preview for this episode.
Great start by all six cars. Solberg, though, is level with Ekstrom up towards turn one. Ekstrom's going to run wide. Up the inside, Kevin Hansen. Absolutely no mercy. Kevin Eriksson all the way round the outside. That's an outrageous move, Kevin Eriksson.
Expertly timed and very, very skillful to take advantage of the situation there, and like that commentator put it, which I couldn't have put it any better way, that was an outrageous move. Here we have one of those inflatable advertising thingies. I don't know the technical term for them. If anybody does know, let me know down below in the comments. But now we'll see how it got deflated in the first place. It gets the wind knocked out of it here by this car with the Phillips Sunstrip and slowly hisses out air until it collapses onto the road and presumably gets destroyed by the other vehicles. Now I like this type of racing here, it seems really fun. Here we have two Volkswagen Beetles battling it out where the blue one seems to get hooked into the back arch of the purple one here. But luckily on this corner they managed to come free again.
We got a tow truck. He knows what's going on there.
After a bit of an incident here on the track, these guys managed to pull off to the side, but somebody forgot to put the handbrake on this one. Could have been a nasty incident here, but luckily the other drivers managed to avoid running into it. I'm sure there were a few nerve-wracking moments there. This one here is like a scene out of Grand Theft Auto when your vehicle's on fire and the only way out is to bail out while the vehicle's still moving. Luckily here on the track, this guy is wearing protection and he also has fire crews and medical crews on standby, so it's not as bad as if you were out on the streets. But still a lucky escape for this guy. And the car continues on driverless until it collides with the crash rail back into the roadway, but luckily the other drivers managed to avoid hitting the flaming wreckage. Continuing on with the fire team for our next clip here, we have two vehicles that leave the track and cause a small gorse fire off to the side. I'm not 100% sure what the cause was here, perhaps just the dry brush underneath and the heat from the bottom of the cars after racing around the track like that, or possibly perhaps some sort of a fuel leak, but luckily crews were on hand to quickly dampen down the flames. Some more flames here, but this time as a result of a burnout. And as the commentator in the clip was saying, this is fun for everybody but the team owner. It's good entertainment and makes for a bit of a spectacle, but it can prove very costly when a burnout turns into a burn up, which is exactly what happens here. Well, I guess that set of mud flaps is completely useless now. Let's hope they managed to put the fire out before there was too much damage caused. And moving right along from fires to fire hazards, here we have a fuel cap that doesn't seem to have a proper seal on it. It seems that as the fuel sloshes around inside the tank, as it hits the cap, it's spraying out in this sort of a vapour. Now, it doesn't really take a lot of fuel to make it look dramatic, but definitely a cause for concern here, and it's also making the track very, very slippy. There's definitely a pit stop needed here. The next segment is entitled Jettisoned Wheels. Get the edge on your competitors by getting rid of a wheel and losing some weight. And that guy there narrowly avoided having his head taken off. Here's a stray wheel that seems to be going it alone, but somebody in the pits is going to have a few questions to answer after this. I think they forgot to tighten up a couple of bolts. A spanner has really been thrown in the works, and this is really embarrassing for the pit crew. Here we have a mean green Peugeot 206 machine that's now decided it wants to be a trike. This car here has a wheel going ahead as a scout, and it walloped off that crash barrier with a good bit of force there. Luckily there was no one standing in the way. For this one we're at Le Mans in northwestern France, and of course Le Mans being famous for its 24-hour race, which has been described as the pinnacle of racing. Now forget about window wipers, you have to make sure that your sponsors on the hood can be seen clearly by the TV cameras. It's not about the winning, it's about the money. So just before we close out the topic of motorsports for this video, I want to take a quick look at a story that appeared in the news here in Ireland, and it concerns a man who was accused of tampering with a car before the Donegal International Rally. John Crothers, a 62-year-old, had been charged at a special sitting of Letterkenny District Court accused of damaging the car of rally driver Richard Hall. Mr. Hall had been due to take part in the history section of the rally in June 2022. However, Mr. Hall's car was interfered with before the race. The DPP, or the Director of Public Prosecutions, had decided that Crothers should stand trial before a judge and jury. The accused, who was from Ballymena in County Antrim, faces a total of 3 charges. Crothers is accused that he did, without lawful excuse, damage property, to wit, cut the fuel pump switch, the fan switch, 3 wires to the rev limiter and the safety switch of a motor car, namely a Ford Escort belonging to Richard Hall, intending to damage such property or being reckless as to whether such property would be damaged. He is also charged with making threats to damage Mr. Hall's vehicle. The accused is also charged that he, without lawful authority or reasonable cause, did interfere with the mechanism of a mechanically propelled vehicle, the property of Mr. Hall, while such a vehicle was stationary. Crothers had been released on bail, and the case was called at Letterkenny District Court in July, where Sergeant Jim Collins said that the DPP had directed that the case be heard on indictment. He sought a future date for presentation of the book of evidence in the case, and Judge Etienne Cunningham adjourned the case until September 25th to allow time for a book of evidence to be prepared ahead of the next sittings of Letterkenny District Court, which will be in October. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this case and what the reasons behind him tampering with the vehicle were, if of course he is proven guilty of tampering with the vehicle. Seems to me, on speculation here, that it may be some sort of a rivalry. Maybe he was another competitor or something like that, but we just don't know yet. But I will keep you guys updated, and we should know more on the 17th of October when the next sitting of that court is, and depending on the outcome I may do a standalone video on it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have a few clips to show you guys that are unrelated to the theme of this episode of Road Rogues. So we're going to take a look at a couple of those now, and I would ask you kindly, if you have been enjoying the video, please help us get it out to more people by dropping us a like. It's very much thoroughly appreciated. The first 2 clips I have for you guys take place here in Ireland, and the first one relates to this bin man here having a very rubbish day. Yes, I know I said I was going to give over on the puns, but I lied. This incident happened in the Millbrook Apartments in Navan in County Westmeath. The driver of the lorry was taken to hospital for treatment after apparently losing control of the vehicle. Councillor Alan Laws, who lives locally, said that the Bordnamona recycling lorry appeared to have lost control when it crashed through the railings and walls surrounding the car park. He added that it came to a stop just inches from the building, and it was lucky that there were no other injuries. According to any of the articles that I read on the incident, Bordnamona were contacted for comment but said that the incident is currently under review. So we don't know what the situation is here, whether it was a mechanical fault or whether it was a driver error. But whatever the cause, you can be sure that that driver is very shaken up at the moment and he probably won't get behind the wheel for a very long time. But we can be thankful here that there was no serious injuries and no further damage done, because things could have been a whole lot worse. So let's take a look at a little clip of them reversing the bin lorry away, and you'll actually see the aftermath and what damage was done. And this clip was actually filmed by Councillor Alan Laws. Staying in Ireland for this clip, but moving over to the county of Roscommon. And this is a much more serious affair here. The driver of the silver Ford Focus up ahead is all over the road, and things only get much worse as we venture further on. Now we can only speculate as to what's the matter here. I don't know if it's drink, drugs, or a combination of both, or maybe it's a medical situation that's going on. But it's blatantly obvious that this driver doesn't have proper awareness of his surroundings, nor does he have proper control of his vehicle. And just passing that bus there, you can see how much of a danger that this guy poses to other road users. He could have easily strayed out in front of that bus with devastating consequences. Miraculously, he manages to keep it on the right side of the road going around this blind corner. But he overcompensates and ends up into the grass verge, and then overcompensates yet again and nearly ends up going into the path of an oncoming vehicle. It's quite fortunate that traffic on this road here is very light at the moment, because this guy is just an accident waiting to happen. Now if you thought he took that last corner badly, take a look at what he does next. Absolutely shocking driving, and luckily there was no oncoming cars. Here we can see the collision from another angle from a CCTV camera, and it just goes to show you how powerful of an impact it was, and luckily he didn't collide with another road user. And of course the people pulling up there in the van are the people that were recording the clip we were just looking at a few seconds ago. And one thing I do have to say, I'm absolutely amazed that the driver of that car is able to walk out of this. As you can see, all airbags have deployed inside the car, and I don't know if this staggered walk is as a result of an injury, shock, or as a result of being intoxicated. But he's a very, very lucky man to be able to walk away from that. And as I've already said, very fortunate that nobody else was involved here. Fortunately, in both of those incidents that we took a look at there, nobody was seriously injured, but things could have been a whole lot worse. We're going to move along now into our final selection of clips for this video. There's trouble brewing here for these contractors as they're about to fall foul to the laws of physics. I don't think I'd be too confident in these tradesmen if they showed up on my driveway about to do a job. They seem incapable of unloading their own equipment without causing damage, so it doesn't bode well for what might happen inside your property. We're at a river crossing here, but the danger is not going to come from the water. A slight traffic jam builds up ahead and this guy tears through in the black SUV straight into the car in front of him. Seems these bus drivers here have decided to take the top coat of lacquer off the roof. I know when you have to be somewhere, you have to be somewhere, and you probably have to keep a timetable, but it's not going to be very good for the bus if you get stuck under there. And what makes this worse is that these buses look fairly new. Very bizarre, and even more so the fact we get a wave off one of the drivers. How these folks don't realise that they're actually dragging their boat is beyond me. One look in that rear view mirror and you would notice. Also the noise is another key indicator. But it seems these folks are oblivious to what's going on. You're not going to need a bigger boat, you're going to need a new boat. This gentleman here is using himself as a human shield to protect his windscreen from the hailstones. Here's two gentlemen having some difficulty putting fuel into a piece of construction equipment, seeing as they can't get the hang of how a funnel functions. By the time these guys are finished, they'll have spilt more fuel than they've actually filled the equipment with. And I know this is exactly what all you guys are doing as you're watching Road Rogues. Well guys, that just about wraps things up for this episode of Road Rogues. I thank you very much for joining me, and if you did enjoy the video, please do drop us a like, as it does help get the video out to more people. Leave us a comment down below and let me know what you thought, and I'll try to get back to as many people as I possibly can. As always, links to everything important are down below in the description, including our social medias and also ways you can help support the channel if you like what we do here. If you'd like to pick yourself up some Degenerate Watch merch, don't forget to check out our merch store, which there's a link to that down below in the description as well. You can also hit the little heart button down below the video to send us a super thanks, or why not consider joining as a channel member. More information about that by clicking the join button down below this video or clicking on the link down below in the description. My apologies to all you guys for there being such a gap between videos at the moment. I am working to sort that, and I do thank you very much for your patience in the meantime. Before I go, I'd like to give a massive shout out to everyone that's watching this with me on the premiere. Thank you very much for joining me. And as always, a massive shout out to my channel members. Thank you very much guys for your continued support and encouragement. It is very much thoroughly appreciated. Well guys, I'll be back very soon with another video here on Degenerate Watch. I do hope you'll join me then. And if you're interested in me doing a video to cover the recent massive drug seizure at sea by the Irish Navy, please do let me know down below in the comments and I'll work on sorting that video out. But until next time, if you haven't seen some of our other videos, why not check out some of the videos that should be appearing on screen now. Until next time guys, stay safe, take care, peace.